Hello again, it's Sue here. I've realised I've forgotten to introduce myself in all these videos, but anyway, there we go. Hello again and welcome back to my series of videos about how to make these quilted baubles. I showed you the other day some of my fabrics and somebody asked about the mushroom fabric, so here's a close-up of it. A cute fabric, but if you've watched any of the previous videos about this, especially the last one about folding, you'll see what I mean about it looks lovely like this and you think you're going to get lovely mushrooms, but when you fold it you only get glimpses. And as a matter of interest, this fabric here, don't tell anybody, but that's the pillowcase fabric, but it works. So I've had a request for another one of these baubles, which is called the rosebud pattern, I think. So I'm just going to show you how I cut my fabric up using these two fabrics here, because I don't have any pre-cut and they want another one exactly the same as this. I'll do my best. So I'm going to show you how I use my rotary cutter, my cutting mat and my long quilting ruler and my square quilting ruler to cut up the fabric. I'm not actually a quilter. I do have an enormous fabric stash because I can't resist buying it, but there we go. So I mentioned in one of the other videos that sometimes you might be tempted to cut on the diagonal to get a particular pattern, but if you do that, you can see there that the fabric has a stretch in the diagonal, and we want to cut it so that we are going in line with where the salve edges would be, so that there is no stretch in the fabric in either direction. This, I think, was a fat quarter that I got at Harrogate Quilt Festival, maybe. So I start with lining up the edges, and if I don't have straight edges then I trim to make a straight edge, and I get my nice long ruler, line my fabric up on the straight edge there. I tend to do this in big batches of cutting because A, it makes a lot of dust, I've found, when you do the cutting, and B, it's actually very therapeutic to just get on and cut. Now I use, let me put my hand under there for you, I use 2.5 inch squares. So the way that I do this little bit on this particular ruler is 1/2 inch, 1, 2. So there's my 2.5 inches. So I tend to use my ruler upside down. I don't think the numbers are going to show on this fabric. I line the straight edge up and I line up with the fold. Make sure that my safety is off on my blade and cut, making sure to cut away from myself. Line it up again. Very satisfying sound. One of the important things that I've found is not to try and cut too many layers of fabric all at the same time. So I'll put that to one side, because if you do that then the blade on your rotary tool doesn't like it. So when I've got some strips like this, I lay them on top of each other. I do like to try and get the best amount out of the fabric without wasting any, but I do keep all the little scraps because they come in so handy for lots of other little projects, or even just stuffing if you're going to be making toys or something like that. So there we have the fabrics all nicely lined up, And this is where I swap over to my small ruler, which is non-slip, which means that on this side, these yellow lines, and not the black ones, but just the yellow ones, they're a bit raised up. So it prevents this from slipping, which gives you neater cuts. So once they're lined up, I'm going to start by just trimming off this end, just to get rid of those little bits there and get a nice straight edge. Turn it around. Oh, sorry guys, didn't mean to knock you. Line it up. I'm not always this careful, by the way, but for the purposes of demonstration I will be. And then again, find 2.5 inches. There's 2.5. I line up one of the yellow lines with the straight cut edge that we've already got. Press down. I always make sure I've pressed down on this and then cut. And there you've got your lovely folds. Move it along a bit more. 2.5 inches. Line it up with the yellow bit and cut. And you do get into quite a good flow with this. Now when I get to a fold like this only happens if I've ironed the fabrics and I've had them lying around for a while. I'll show you how I actually store them, but I do make particular point of pressing down on that fold. Oh, got them out of line, so sometimes you just have to get them all lined up again. So it's as easy as that, and those of you who do quilting on a regular basis will be able to do this bit no bother. So there we go. Didn't actually count those as I went along, but that's a nice bundle of squares now. And sometimes with these little bits that are left over, you can still make the shapes that you need to go on the bauble, and I'll explain why. When I first learnt this technique, I learnt a way that had 2.5 inches by 3 inches, so that you did have rectangles. And when you have that kind of shape, you just fold over the top bit, not all the way, but just a little bit, and then you can fold. So you see, I'm not going to be wasting any of this precious fabric because I've still got one that I can use. So there we go, there's how I cut the fabric. Thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.